Paytm and Vijay Shekhar Sharma are on top of mind for the last several days. Every headline, every story and every question is about what happens to Paytm. Ab Paytm kare ya na kare. So what we are trying to do today is explain to you in the simplest terms possible what has actually happened, why and what next. So let's begin from the start of all of this action, which was on the end of January. On 30th January, the RBI took action on Paytm Payments Bank. Here's what they did. Number one, they barred it from operating its wallets business. That means they can't take any more deposits, credits, transactions, or top-ups. Now, all of these restrictions come into effect after the 29th of Feb. What does this mean for you if you were an account holder of Paytm Payments Bank? Now here, I'm just going to take a second to explain a very important distinction. A lot of people are still confused that does this mean they can't do their usual UPI transactions on Paytm? Can they use their Paytm app? Yes, you can. This only impacts you in a way if you are a PPB. That's a Paytm Payments Bank holder. So here's what happens to you. You can't add any money in your bank account, that is Paytm Payments Bank, after February 29th. You can't send or receive money from your account after February 29th. You can, however, withdraw money from this account at any point. So the inflow stops after Feb 29, but the outflow doesn't. UPI transactions on your Paytm app will continue to work unless the underlying bank is connected to a payments bank account, that is a Paytm Payments Bank account. So, for example, when you have a UPI ID, the end of it is @OK and the name of your bank. If that after the word OK is Paytm Payments Bank, then that will not work after February 29th. Now, the other part of this story is why the action? What did Paytm do, and was it so bad that the RBI had to crack down? Let's break it down into 2 or 3 major reasons. Number one is irregularities in KYC. Now, all of us are very familiar with KYC. KYC literally means know your customer, and for the banking system, for the financial system, it's the most important thing you can imagine because the bank needs to know who this customer is. Now, in Paytm's case, there was no KYC done for lakhs of customers. And even those who had KYC, there were some issues over there. So, for example, thousands of customers had the same PAN number. There were too many transactions in prepaid instruments. Now, prepaid instruments typically requires lesser details of KYC. There is a limit to how much you can transact in these instruments. Those transactions were crossing the limits in the case of Paytm Payments Bank. All of these things together lends concerns of money laundering. Now, why are we saying money laundering and why is the regulator concerned about money laundering? You had, for example, unusually high number of dormant accounts in Paytm Payments Bank. These are sometimes also called mule accounts. That means they're just sitting there in the system and can be used to pass through money without the account holder actually getting any of it, which is why concerns of fraud. They also had a lack of transaction monitoring system in the banks. Now, banks typically have a very stringent system about whose money is going into which account and then moving next where in the entire system. So those systems were not up to mark. And it has shown up in a lot of action from various authorities who have frozen accounts used for digital fraud belonging to this bank. But that's only one part of the concerns. I've only spoken about KYC. Let me talk about the data privacy concerns. Now, the biggest concern was that the same IT infrastructure was being used for the parent company, One Communications, which essentially runs the Paytm app, etc., and the payments bank. The parent company and the payments bank should ideally have a complete distance between them. You can't use the same tech. A lot of transactions for the payments bank were also being done through Paytm app. This raises very serious concerns about data privacy of customers of the payments bank. So the regulator's move was also to protect these customers. Another very serious grievance, frankly, was that Paytm is been seen as submitting false compliances. Now, whenever the RBI wants to know what you've been doing in your bank, they will ask for compliance reports. That can you prove that you've actually done what you said you did? Some of these compliances submitted by Paytm's bank, believe it or not, were found to be false. That's a very, very serious action to do. Non-disclosure was the other one. Agreements were changed to favor One Communications, that's the parent company. Substantial payments were being made from Payments Bank to parent company. So there was a lack of transparency overall, something that is unfair to customers, the financial system, and the regulator. Now, let's come to the question. Was this action justified? And this is an important question because there's a bit of a debate around this. Some startup founders are saying that you've been too harsh on Paytm. They're a pioneer in the digital landscape, and why should you do this? Look at the serial offender that this company has been. So the non-compliance started just 1 year after Paytm Payments Bank operations began. The bank's operations began in 2017. Within the first year, there were complaints. They faced their first restrictions in 2018 from the RBI, who lifted it in a few months. They've given false and incomplete compliances to the RBI in 2021. So now you're seeing right from the beginning, there is a series of problems. In 2022, the RBI banned Paytm Payment Bank from onboarding new customers. But no serious action was taken even after that. So now let me pose the question. If there is a payments bank in the system who's not following the rules, who's flouting them, who's giving fake compliances, should the RBI continue to look the other way?